This is Braaaplive2strokes. Today I'm going to be answering the most frequent questions of how to reassemble a top end on a Honda CT90. The tools required to do a top end on a CT90 is a valve clearance gapper, pliers, crescent wrench, screwdriver, a 9mm wrench, a 14mm socket, a 10mm socket, and a ratchet. The first step that you want to do to reassemble a top end on a CT90, you'll want to get the cylinder and put it on. While putting on the cylinder, hold down the rings on the piston until they go inside the cylinder. Then get the timing chain and put it through the slot. Now push the cylinder down. Make sure to not let go of the timing chain. Now get the black wheel with the bolt. Now pull out the bolt and washer. Now put the black wheel in between the chain and put it inside. Next, get the bolt and washer and put it on the outside in this hole. And line up the hole with the wheel. Once you lined it up, screw in the bolt. Now you can let go of the timing chain. With the cylinder and the timing chain in place, you need to get the 10mm socket and the ratchet. Put the 10mm on the end of the ratchet. With their socket on the ratchet, you can now place the socket on the 10mm bolt and tighten it. But be careful not to over tighten it and snap the bolt. The fourth step is to get this rubber gasket with the aluminum lining in the middle. Make sure that aluminum liner faces out. So lift up the timing chain. Now put the timing chain through the gasket and put it in the spot. Make sure the timing chain is always on the top of this wheel. Now let the timing chain go. The fifth step is to get the head and make sure to put the rods in these 4 holes. And make sure that gasket you put in lines up with this. But before you put the head on, get the timing chain gear and put it in the chain. Once you get the timing chain gear on, lift up the timing chain, put the rods in those 4 holes, put the timing chain through the slot. Once you get the timing chain, don't let it go. Make sure the gasket is in place. Now slide on the head. Now do not let go of the timing chain. When you put the gear in, you'll see a marking on the flat side of the gear, like a 0 or an arrow. And on the inside, on the ridge, you'll see an indent or a marking that the 0 and that marking have to line up. In the 7th part, you want to get the shaft and put the longer piece of the shaft inside. Make sure the 2 holes on the timing chain gear and on the shaft line up. The next step is to get the 2 10mm bolts and put them in the holes of the timing chain gear and screw them in. Next, you'll want to get the 10mm socket with the ratchet. Put the 10mm socket on the end of the ratchet. Now you can tighten the 2 10mm bolts, but be careful and not over tighten them and break them. Now get the plate that covers the timing chain and make sure to line it up so the screw holes lines up. Then once you got lined on, snap it on. Now you want to screw on the plate with short little bolts that look like this. So now you want to get the screwdriver and get the short little bolts and screw them in. The next thing you'll want to do is get the little pin and get your pliers. You'll see a hole in the shaft that the pin has to go in. Once you've put in the pin in the shaft, you'll want to get this plate with the springs on it. And on the back, you'll want to line up that hole with the pin in the shaft. So once you've got that lined up, you want to get this medium-sized bolt with the washer. Put it in the middle of the shaft right here and screw it down. You want to get the 10mm socket with the ratchet and tighten it. Don't over tighten it. Once you've tightened up the 10mm bolt, you want to get the points plate. And just like the timing chain, it will have a marking on here and on the side. And you'll want to line both of those markings up. So once you've lined up the markings, you can go get the 2 little screws with washers and screw it in. Once you screwed in the screws, you can get your screwdriver and tighten them. So once you've done that step, you'll want to get the outside cover with the gasket and line it up. So once you have lined up the outside cover, you'll want to get the 2 screws and screw it in. Once you have screwed them in, you want to get your screwdriver and tighten them. Once you have tightened the cover plate, you have done with the left side. Now let's move on to the right side. So once you've done that and you moved on to the right side, you'll want to get this plate with the fins on it, which goes right here. So you want to place it like that. Get the 3 screws, then screw it in with your screwdriver. So once you screwed on the plate with the fins on the right side, you want to get the piece for the top of the head, line up the holes correctly, and put it on. So the top ones only get 1 washer and 1 nut, and the bottom ones get 1 washer and 2 nuts. So the bottom ones get 2 nuts on them. But when you tighten it, remember to tighten 1 nut at a time for the bottom ones. Once you've done that, you want to get this 14mm socket with the ratchet. So take off the 10mm socket and put on the 14 and tighten the nuts, but remember not to over tighten them. So now get the 2 leftover nuts and put them on the bottom. Now you want to get the ratchet in, still with the 14mm, and tighten the 2 other nuts. Now I'm going to show you how to gap the valves. Since we've put the nuts on the top piece for the head, we are now going to gap the valves. To gap the valves, you want to get your gap valve clearance tool. You want to try to gap the valves between 0.004 or 0.002. The way to gap valves is to loosen this nut, then unscrew this until it's flat on the valve. So you want to lift up this and put the gap tool under it, then screw down the rectangle one just until it's a little bit tight, but you can move the gap tool in between it. I've got the gap pretty good tight, but I can still move the gap tool in between it. So you want to tighten down the nut now. You want to do that with the bottom too. Now you want to get the 9mm wrench and tighten the nut just a little bit. When you're done gapping the valves, you want to get the caps that look like these and screw them on the top and bottom. Once you've got the cap screwed on, it's time to get your crescent wrench and tighten them. Don't tighten them too much, just a little bit. So once you've reassembled your CT90 top end, this is how it should look. Make sure to follow me on my Facebook fan page at Braaaplive2strokes, and make sure to hit the like button on the top. The link will be in the description below. And also make sure to comment, subscribe, favorite, and like. And you can also message me with any questions.